All right, so my name is Danny Krasnick here with 90.3 WMC Upper Montclair. I am the co-host of Movies Till Midnight, and I am here today with two very special guests to talk about their movie Bad Shabbos. One of them is a Montclair alumni, so I'm super excited to talk about it. So can you two introduce yourselves and tell me what you did with the movie?
I'm Kait Plum. I am the Montclair alumni, and I'm the editor of Bad Shabbos.
I'm Daniel Robbins. I didn't go to Montclair, but I attended the Montclair Film Festival once, and I'm the director.
All right. So can you tell me a little bit about what the movie's about and how you came up with the idea for this project?
Sure. So the idea actually came from Adam Mitchell, the producer, and while he was on a FaceTime with Zach, the writer, they were just talking, and Adam said it'd be so funny if you guys, like, your Shabbos dinners are so crazy, if you just have like a murder cover up at a shop. And then they came to me and were like, what do you think? And I usually like turn down ideas and say they're bad. I was like, oh, that could actually be amazing. And then we expanded. I had like a story structure from an old script about like covering up a body and tossing it off the balcony as like the climax. And then the last piece that was missing was Zach's brother came up with the idea that it would all happen on a night and in-laws are coming over. So all of those factors converge. We're like, yeah, this would be a great movie. Let's try to get it made.
Yeah, and speaking about like, you know, all the different elements that you had going into it, you have so many different unique characters with a bunch of different unique traits. Like you have the dad who's into all of his, I forget what exactly the word is, but all of his like anti-confrontation books and everything like that. And you have the one brother who is, trying to work out and trying to go into the military. Like, what was that?
Nonviolent communication.
Yeah, nonviolent communication, right, yeah. So just, what was that like, how are you guys able to come up with so many, like, unique and different characters with, like, so many different unique character traits?
Good question. I guess we just thought, like, what would be a funny group? So, like, we'd go through each person, like, Dad. What would be some funny things to give a dad? Like, instead of him being macho, what if he's like someone who's just like obsessed with self-help? And then with the brother, we needed someone who, would put laxative in someone's drink. So we went for someone who's a little more like militant and a little crazier. And then for everyone else, we just whatever felt funny.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so now I'm going to toss it over to Kait for my next question. So you came on to the project later as the editor. So when you were first found out about the project, when you first heard the pitch, when you first read the script, like, what was your reaction to that? Like, how'd you like the script, basically? Like, what hooked you about the script, about this project?
Well, it was through a producer of the project who I had worked with on a previous film, a documentary, and he just threw my name in the ring and was like, oh, do you like comedy? And I was like, I love comedy. So he's like, here's the script, read it. I read it, and the part that, like, I laughed out loud at a lot of it, but the part that really got me was the man chant, and that was the moment I was kind of like, oh, I want to be on this film. I want to see how this plays out, because obviously it was before they'd even filmed. And then Daniel got on a call, and he was like, so, like, when should I send you a drive? And it was like a lot of tech talk, and I was like, all right, we'll figure it out after you shoot. But yeah, so that's kind of how it went.
Yeah, and then talking more about the editing, with regard to the script, were there any scenes that were either in the script or were shot that ended up not making it into the final edit, where you were editing it together and were like, this scene just is not playing the way we thought it would, that had to get cut out?
Ooh, good question. Is there a scene that got cut?
We were pretty tight. The only things that were cut were the big dinner scene of the Shabbat dinner. We trimmed like different conversation bits and different like elements of it to shorten it down. But that was pretty much it. It was, part of Adam, the producer. Oh my gosh, sorry. An alarm just shouted in my ears. That Adam, the producer, is like very. He has like a journalist background, and so he's always got like constant refinement. So it got to the point where the script was so tight that it's pretty much what we shot is in the edit.
Yeah, we didn't lose. We almost lost the elevator scene. That was something that I was like kind of against, just because the transition to it. But it ended up working after sound got to it. But the only thing we really lost is like some jokes in the dinner scene, which was already really, really long. So we were just trying to keep the pace. So we lost like 2 major segments, mostly about the Father Richard's books that he writes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So then, Daniel,
it's for the DVD.
Yeah, it's for this. Yeah.
Bonus features. Yeah. So Daniel, to toss it back to you. So you started off working mostly with horror films, right? So were there any? Did you learn anything from your experience directing projects like that you then brought over to comedy? And what can you tell us a bit about that?
Probably the main 2 lessons would be, one, in a horror movie, everything is scarier if it feels more real. And I think the same applies to comedy. Not across the board, but generally, if things feel more real, it's going to be funnier. And then the second element is that you have to stay on the story as much as you can. Where if you veer off in any direction or have a scene or a sequence that doesn't add to the bigger picture, audiences just feel it and they just lean out of the movie. So even if something's hilarious, like trying to find a way to stick it to that clothesline of the overall story.
Gotcha.
Otherwise, Kait will probably cut it out of the movie.
Yeah. So
It's true. It's an editing trick. Every scene should be doing 3 things. It should be moving the story forward, adding new information, and I forget the third one because didn't have my coffee today. But yeah.
Reveal character.
Reveal character. There you go. I told it to you, so of course you remember.
Or it could just have Milana improving, and it'll justify its existence.
Yeah, that's true. All of Milana's improvs will stay.
Yeah.
That actually was one of my other questions for you. Was like, from an editing standpoint, like what kind of, what is your drive as an editor? Like what do you hope to accomplish when you're editing a scene together? So you kind of just answered that already. You stole my question.
Well, it's also it's pacing too. A lot of the story, like Daniel and me talked a lot about other comedy films that we felt would influence this edit, and one of them was what was that old one, Daniel? The news one with the fast talking. His Girl Friday, right?
Yeah, that's one.
Yeah. So he was like, we want it like this. So there was a point where I kind of cut my cut, and then Daniel came and he's like, everything faster, and we went faster, and then we were like, no, we need to go slower, and I was like, so we made, like, I showed him, I was like, okay, so this is why we pace it to like get a little growth, but it was fun to see like how fast we could cut it, but it was very hard to follow, and you missed a lot of jokes. So I like to slow it down, and then I also like to have throwaways where you hear a joke and like laugh about it like a few shots later, and you're like, oh, that was funny, but you kind of missed it. Those are fun for me too. But yeah, you want your A joke to kind of be the landing point of the whole scene.
Gotcha. So to drive away a bit more from the comedy aspect, there's this scene when I believe it is at when we get to the dinner scene, where the fiance is talking about, has this moment where she's just talking about the story of Joseph from the Bible, and it's just suddenly you have like all of this madness and comedy, and then it just comes to a halt, and you just have this really like very gentle, delicate moment. So my question about that is, where did that come from? Like, where did that come in? Was that always kind of on the brain during the development process, or did that come later?
From pretty early, we knew we needed something there, because the main emotional core of the story, like, it seems like it's Meg and David, but really it's about, like, in Crazy Rich Asians, it's about the mom coming over and liking the daughter-in-law. And it's a similar story here. It's like Meg becoming a part of the family, and the mother-in-law noticing that and accepting her, even if she's not the daughter-in-law that she's dreamed of on paper. So we felt like even when the dinner's crazy, we need this moment where things kind of quiet down, and we see Kira, who, like, in one close-up can tell a whole story with her eyes, just like come around to her telling the story about Joseph and his brothers. The story itself took a lot of searching. I subscribe to this Rabbi Sachs, who he sends out his like weekly thoughts on the Torah. I mean, he passed away, but someone's taken over and they send out his previous thoughts. And her speech is pretty much taken from one of these things that he sent out.
Gotcha. And then another question for both of you guys. Do you have any advice for, specifically students, because that's our prime demographic, right? But just do you have any advice for student filmmakers who want to get into, making their own film projects?
Yeah. I'd say like two things. The first is what everyone says, and they're probably tired of hearing it, which is just make something. Where the first thing I made is probably worse than the first thing you're going to make. The only difference is I just kept going and showing it to people and dealing with the shame of it being bad, learning what can be better, just doing that over and over, and eventually you get good. And then the second element is, I know right now especially, trauma is really hot, and having difficulties in your life that hold you back. But I saw this Jeff Koons thing, and it affected me, and hopefully it will affect others, where he just says how your life is perfect, everything that's happened up until now is perfect, and there's nothing that's actually holding you back. So trauma is this thing that in and of itself doesn't affect your life. It's the meaning that you assign to it. For example, if someone passes away, you could either lock yourself in a house and be I'm going to dedicate my life to just being sad because that's how sad I am about this person passing away, and someone else who had the same person pass away can go out into the community and start helping people and try to make that light radiate outwards. So it's about whatever's happened in your life up until now, just having some radical acceptance, knowing that it's maybe unique, and just moving forward with that. And trying to make the best stuff possible.
Nice. And Kate, how about
you? Mine's philosophical. Yeah, that's beautiful what you said, though. It's true. I had a friend pass recently, and instead of being sad, we decided to make something that he had come up with, and even though it's not high-end stuff, we're making stuff in his memory and kind of keeping his spirit alive. So what Daniel said is really true. But as far as advice for students, intern, build your resume while you're in college, really get jobs or whatever you can, low budget, because that's the time you're going to want to do it. You're going to want to get paid when you get out. So it's the better your resume is, the better chances you are of getting a job. And you focus on where you want to go. If it's film related specifically, there's a lot of different avenues you could take, post or pre-production or production. Also, networking is super, super important. Just go meet with people in the industry that inspire you or are doing something that you'd maybe want to do. I met a lot of editors when I first came out, and they were the people who got me jobs later down the line. So it's super important, and really maintain those connections because it is who a lot of the time that gets you the job. And also read about, if you want to do something, read books about it. It took me this long to sit and read about how to write a good screenplay. I just read Aristotle's Guide to Screenplay, and I was this is so stupid. Why didn't I read this in college? Because I sit there and I'm trying to figure out, why does this storyline work and this one doesn't? And I know, but I'm I wish I just sat and read a lot more when I was in school. I just neglected it and wanted to socialize. But yeah, that's my advice. Do what you can while you're still in school. This is the time to really learn and create those connections.
Awesome. So you guys said this is coming out to film festivals. Do we know when this is going to be available for people to watch? Because I would love to watch this again, but so I gotta promote it.
Thanks, man. I guess whichever festival we get into, but probably should come out early to mid next year is the target right now. But it depends which festival we get into.
Awesome. And then
hopefully the Montclair Film Festival.
That would be awesome. That would be great. That would be awesome. And then last question.
Colbert will show up. It'll be a whole party.
Yeah, honestly. Yeah, please do. And then last question. We ask this of all of our guests on the shows. Do you have a favorite movie? This is for both of you. You can only pick one.
I'm going to say for comedy, just because this is what we're talking about, Step Brothers, hands down. I still watch it pretty regularly, and it still holds up to this day. It's not offensive. It's just good old-fashioned comedy.
That's a good one. I'm between, I mean, it changes all the time. It's like whatever you've seen last. I'm between Schindler's List and Moneyball. Both very different, but amazing in their own ways.
The through line there is just, ooh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much for joining me, you guys. And thank you, listeners, for tuning in.
Thank you for having us and for the super thoughtful questions.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you so much for inviting us along. And,
yeah, of course.
This was so much fun.
Yeah, super cool.
Yeah, of course.
Also, we have to plug Kait has a new series out called Ready to Eat News. You have to follow on Instagram.
Yeah, Ready, #2, Eat News. We're on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. It might be slightly offensive, but I promise you it's all satire.
Awesome. Awesome.
It's for the friend that passed away. It was his idea, so yeah. Shout out that.
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, thank you guys very, very much for joining me. We hope to see your movie when it comes out.
Thank you, man. It was great meeting you.
Great meeting you too.
Thank you so much.
All right. Bye, guys.